It was a time of celebration in a far-off kingdom where every maiden in the land awaited the grand ball. Cinderella, a young woman of kindness and grace, lived with her stepmother and two stepsisters. To those around her, the story seemed all too familiar. The wicked stepmother and cruel stepsisters tormenting her every day. As the ball approached, her stepsisters were preparing in beautiful gowns, their laughter echoing through the halls. The night was meant to be magical, but for Cinderella, it seemed impossible. Despite her goodness, Cinderella was treated harshly. Her stepsisters, Amelia and Beatrice, mocked her. But something wasn't quite right with them. Their eyes gleamed with an unnatural glow. Their laughter echoed like shadows. Yet Cinderella remained unaware, thinking it was simply their cruelty. The night of the ball arrived. Cinderella's stepsisters stood before her, admiring their gowns. Amelia's smirk widened as she handed Cinderella a horrid, tattered dress, something that would ensure humiliation.
Go on, dear Cinderella. Attend the ball.
Amelia sneered. The sisters laughed, as Beatrice added with a sinister grin,
We can't wait for everyone to see you.
But Cinderella was determined. Despite the terrible dress, she still held on to hope. Her stepmother, however, stood in her path. The stepmother's voice was cold as ice.
You look ridiculous. Stay here and finish your chores. You'll only bring shame to the family if anyone sees you like this.
Forced to obey, Cinderella was left alone in the house, watching as her stepmother and stepsisters departed. With tears streaming down her face, she scrubbed the floors. Every inch of her home had to be spotless before she could even think of attending the ball. But the weight of despair was too much. Her hands trembled, her heart heavy with exhaustion. She tried. Oh, how she tried. But no matter how hard she worked, the tasks were endless. Cinderella collapsed, tears staining the floor. Her cries of despair echoed in the empty home, her hope fading with each sob. Suddenly, a soft glow filled the room. The fairy godmother appeared, watching over the girl with pity in her eyes.
I've been watching you, child,
She whispered. For weeks, the fairy had seen how Cinderella was mistreated, how her kindness had been repaid with cruelty. She had known of the demons within Amelia and Beatrice, but had been powerless to stop them alone. With a wave of her wand, Cinderella's rags transformed into a magnificent gown, shimmering with light. Her shoes became glass slippers, delicate and magical. For a moment, Cinderella's face lit up, her heart filled with hope once again. The fairy godmother spoke with a warning.
Remember, child, the magic will only last until midnight. You must leave before the final bell tolls, or everything will return to its original state.
As the carriage, formed from a pumpkin, waited outside, Cinderella hesitated. Could this truly be happening? With renewed determination, she stepped into the carriage and made her way to the ball. The night was bright, filled with music and joy. As Cinderella entered the grand ballroom, all eyes turned toward her. The prince, who had grown weary of the superficial women around him, was captivated by this mysterious woman. He couldn't take his eyes off her. Together, they danced, and for the first time in her life, Cinderella felt free. The night of the ball seemed perfect, but beneath the surface, an ancient evil was waiting to strike. Cinderella had danced with the prince, captured his heart, but as the night drew closer to midnight, an unsettling feeling filled the air. At the stroke of midnight, Cinderella hurried out of the castle, her heart pounding as she raced against time. The magic began to fade. One of her glass slippers slipped off her foot, but she couldn't turn back. She ran, disappearing into the night. The prince found the slipper and vowed to find the woman who had captured his heart. But the journey to return the slipper was far darker than anyone could have imagined. As the prince made his way to Cinderella's home, the truth began to unfold. Amelia and Beatrice, the so-called stepsisters, weren't human at all. They were demons sent from the depths of hell. The prince didn't know it, but the slipper would serve as bait for a far more sinister plot. When he arrived at the house, Cinderella wasn't there to greet him. Instead, Amelia and Beatrice watched with dark amusement, whispering in a language only they understood. The stepmother stood by, her face pale, knowing the danger was closing in. The prince held the slipper, calling out for the woman he had danced with. But just as Cinderella stepped forward, something shifted. The sisters revealed their true form, hideous demons, hungry for power and blood. In a cruel twist, the demons had been playing with Cinderella's life all along. They had killed her father, and now they sought her soul. The stepmother had tried to protect her, but her efforts were in vain. The demons wanted blood, and they would not stop. As Cinderella reached out for the slipper, the demons attacked. In the chaos, the stepmother stepped in, shielding Cinderella one last time, only to meet her own end. In the shadows, the real Cinderella fell, her body lifeless. But the demons weren't done yet. One of the demons took over Cinderella's body, wearing her face like a mask. The prince, unaware of the horrors that had unfolded, placed the glass slipper on the demon's foot, believing he had found his beloved. The ball continued, and the demon, now disguised as Cinderella, ascended to the throne beside the prince. No one knew the truth. Not the prince, not the kingdom. The real Cinderella was gone, her body inhabited by the evil that had claimed her family. The fairy tale didn't end with a happily ever after. The prince was deceived, and now darkness reigns over the kingdom. But this is just the beginning. What twisted tale should we explore next? Share your ideas for our next dark chapter below.